It's like chasing ghosts all around the world. There are people who are struggling really to live free against others who will claim that that can never be. And as long as many people just don't understand, the spirit lacks flesh and bone. I've been searching for a spirit, just us and please for everyone. But I've been feeling so frustrated. It's like chasing ghosts all around the world. All around the world. Passion that they know against the hands of brothers who would steal their very soul. And as long as many people just don't understand, the spirit likes flesh and bone all around the world. I must keep on searching. I know someday we'll find the answer and put an end of exploitation of man by man. These things are flesh and bone. Flesh and bone. Flesh and bone. People who are suffering oppression that they know it's at the hands of others who would steal their very soul. And as long as many people just don't understand, the spirit lacks flesh and bone all around the world. I got to keep on searching. No other choices I can't stand. I know someday we'll find the answer and put an end to the exploitation of man by man. Cause it's a flesh and bone. Flesh and bone. Flesh and bone. Glory! Glory! Man, listen, I don't even go on the video usually when the music is bumping, y'all know, cause I just, man, look, hey, I got a story about that. But first, Q4 Radio, Bro Diallo Show, AM 16, what is it, 1680? I don't even remember what. Hey, let's get rid of these notes and just listen to Elton Gumble Quartet all morning. I could do that, but that ain't in my contract. Anyway, let me regain my composure. I had no business playing that song. I've been on air almost 3 years, and I've never, ever, ever, ever played that track. And this is why. See, now I'm all verklempt. But anyway, I'll try to proceed and do this show. Now, y'all done tuned in for a Bro Diallo show. I don't want to get the Holy Ghost up in here. Anyway, Q4 Radio, AM 1680, iTunes, TuneIn app, all of that. Today is October 25th in the year of your Lord, 2019. We set off this morning with Oscar Brown Jr., that dad, hey daddy, who that dad? And Gil Scott Heron, your daddy loves you. And we wrapped up our morning inspiration, our morning gospel with Flesh and Bone, with the Elton Gumble Quartet. And I got a little history with that song. My dad had, actually, that's from a compilation album, Frontliners. And my dad gave me a cassette. And it didn't have any writings on it. But my dad said, I did some instrumentation, piano, for on this album. They called us in, some local artists, to work on this album. And he just passed me the cassette. And I had it for a couple of months, and I never played it. This is like the late 80s, early 90s, probably 88, 89. And I just had the cassette tape. And I ain't gonna go into the story of my childhood. It's the stuff of movies, but it's not like the stuff of interesting movies. It's the stuff like you take Boys in the Hood and take out all the gangsterism and bravado, just leaving the struggle and poverty. That was my upbringing. But I put this album in it was Frontliners, and track after track, boy, that album, those songs really helped me make it through a lot of hard times in my youth. And I played it and played it and played it and played it and played it until that tape deck, I let my tape rock till my tape pop. And the tape actually broke, and I took it apart with the little screws, and I repaired it, and I played it till it wore out again. I had that tape for years. But I didn't see my father very often, so I couldn't even ask him, what is this? Where did you get it? Can I get another copy? But the songs were in my head. And at that same time, at about 14, 15, I started going to the community Kwanzaa that was put on by the National Black United Front. And the National Black United Front said, Kwanzaa is more than just a celebration. It's about empowerment. It's about liberation. It's about helping oppressed black people. So I became a member of the National Black United Front. And I was just a grunt soldier in the movement. They said, we gonna protest, we gonna march, we gonna pull our resources, whatever the MBUF was doing, I just show up and do it. And I always had this song in my mind. I didn't even know that MBUF had put this album out, had produced, mastered, mixed, pressed, and put this vinyl album out. Not only that, the song I played, Flesh and Bone, there was a brother in MBUF by the name of Elton Gumble. Low-key, humble, quiet dude. He come to the meetings, he come to our various activities, sit right next to me. And for years, I had no idea that MBUF had put out this tape that I had, and I had no idea that Elton Gumble was the artist of the Elton Gumble Quartet, Flesh and Bone. And I sat across from Elton for decades, it seems like, and didn't know nothing about none of that. So it's weird. Anyway, I was in my 20s, and I think it was Leon Dixon and the chairman, Jamu. And I saw that Jamu had like 4 or 5 of these records in his office. He was an engineer. He had a black-owned engineering firm called Du Bois Engineering. And they had Du Bois Learning Center. And all their businesses, all the businesses under MBUF at that time were Du Bois this, Du Bois Consultants, Du Bois Law Firm, Du Bois Mediation, Du Bois Engineering, everything. And so I was in Du Bois, and I think we were running a candidate for the school board or city council. And I was working, making the flyers and helping to get one of our people on the school board or city council. And he had some of these records. And I'm like, huh, that record, them songs. And he's like, oh, you want one? And just like, here you go. And so I had lost this album for almost 10 years. Like between the ages of like 16, 26, 27, I had lost that album. And I got it back. And I'm like, yo, this is the same. It says on the liner notes, because I didn't know the name of the songs. I didn't know the name of the artist. And I saw my dad's name, Diallo Kenyatta, right there under Lloyd Daniels' piano. Diallo Kenyatta. I'm saying my dad's on there. But I'm like, Elton Gumbo. Is this the same Elton Gumbo, the low-key, quiet, bald-head dude that sit next to me in the MBuff meetings? It blew my mind that people could just embody that kind of talent. Anyway, that was off the album of Frontliners. And the album... it's kind of hard to find, but it's out there. I have only one copy, and this time I have a vinyl copy, and I did burn a copy, and I digitized it. Maybe I'll put it up on some MP3s or audio versions up on the site, because that whole album, I'm gonna play some more tracks off that album, because, yo, I mean, black folks. And what it was revolutionary progressive propaganda. And at that time, we had a lot of gangsterism and anti-human music. But anyway, I digress. Y'all gonna have to bear with me on that one, because I have to regain my composure. You want to see how atheists, secular atheists, what we do to get in the spirit? You know, somebody asked me, you don't believe in spirit. I do accept the concept of spirit when a spirit means, or in the secular sense, of shared emotion. When people, for lack of a better term, are vibing or vibrating on the same frequency. So you can have team spirit, and everybody's rooting for the same outcome, and everybody's putting their physical, emotional energy behind the same outcome, or rooting for the same outcome. I accept and I try to embody and live out and share the spirit of African liberation and the spirit of Pan-African revolution. But do I think that spirit doesn't emanate from outside of us? It comes from within us. So, yeah, you want to see how revolutionaries and secularists and atheists, we get the spirit. But our spirit doesn't come from a supernatural force. It's the people. What did Fred Hampton say? I get high off the people. I love the people. For, by, and of the people. So it's all about the people. So I don't need a magical force from beyond the universe that exists outside of space. It's flesh and bone. Anyway, I can tell y'all some more stories. Shout out to MBuff. Shout out to Kansas City chapter of the National Black United Front. Shout out to former chairman. He has retired and passed on the baton. Chairman of Jambu Webster. Shout out to the Elton Gumbo quintet. And Elton Gumbo is so talented and yet so humble. Humble them. Anyway, I digress. Let's talk about some things. Monday and Wednesday, I spoke about pygmies, simps, and occult anti-blackism. And I didn't get a time to go because there's so much going on. Now we got these stupid cousin humpers, rednecks threatening civil war. Oh my goodness. White folks threatening civil war. And you know, they're just so damn evil. They're just so rotten. These white folks are ready to go to bat for a con man. They're so damn stupid. It would be a comedy. It would be a tragic comedy. White America would be a tragic comedy if it wasn't so genocidal and murderous. Because beyond the genocide and murder, they're a freaking joke. They're a freaking joke. White people have ran all over this country all the way back in the 50s. They started talking law and order and constitutional rights. When black folks said enough of this now, no more Jim Crow, no more segregation, no more lynching, we done had our fill. And white folks were like, well, it's in the law. Segregation is in the law. The Supreme Court is what Brown Plessy versus Ferguson said. We know it's in the law. And white folks ran and told black people when we was marching in the street, you're marching in the street, you're breaking the law. You're protesting, you're breaking the law. You're sitting on the front of the bus, you're breaking the law. White folks were the law and order. We want law and order. You have to respect the Constitution given down to us by our founding fathers. We love the law. And the Republicans were the law and order party. They were slam dunking African men and women and children into prisons all over this country for 2.5 to 3 decades, giving them life for non-violent drug offenses because they wanted to enforce the law. We love the law. And now, in 2019, in 2019, we are seeing that all these law and order, righteous, patriotic Americans, all these constitutionalists, all of these states' rights rhetoric spewing crackers were full of crap. They don't give a damn about the law. They don't give a damn about the Constitution. They don't give a damn about the founding fathers. They don't give a damn about the traditions. They don't give a damn about the legal integrity. They don't give a damn about America's traditions, and they don't give a damn about American values. They don't give a damn about the Bible. They don't give a damn about Jesus H. Christ. These crackers have exposed themselves for the immoral, hypocritical, Caucasus Mountain cave dwelling devils that they are. Because they only supported Constitution, laws, civility when they were on top. But now that they're losing their numerical majority, now they're losing the quote-unquote high ground, now that they are the ones in the back alleys sniffing and inserting needles in their veins and passed out in the street, now that they're the ones struggling to pay their mortgage in their ugly-ass, soulless, cultureless, mayonnaise-ass suburbs that they all ran to, now that they're exposed to be the true welfare kings and queens of the world, now that the reality about white folks is coming out, they want to flip over the table. What I've been telling black folks to do the whole time. When they get beat by their own games. China's beating them by their own games. Black folks was organizing politically. And all of a sudden, the same people that told us about American values, American law, and the love of the Constitution, walking around with my pocket Constitution in my back pocket, are now saying we're ready for a civil war. When you control the judiciary, you control the executive branch, and you illegally have undue power in the Congress. And you want a war when you still in power, when y'all still got the money. What the hell? You want to talk about snowflakes? Do you know they impeached Bill Clinton? Do you know they harassed and illegally harangued Barack Obama? Don't you know that every single Republican president since Dwight D. Eisenhower has gotten into office through dirty tricks, corruption, stealing, and lying? There hasn't been one truly democratically, justly, legally elected Republican president since Dwight D. Eisenhower. And you go look at the Diallo archives. I ran down every single Republican president that was elected that snuck, stole, steal, and lied and did corruption. Yes, Ronald Reagan. If not for corruption and lies and illegal dealing and wheeling with overseas forces, the Iranians and the Contras, he wouldn't have been in office. We all know George Bush got in because of the corrupt Supreme Court, because the man that his daddy put on the Supreme Court pushed him over the ledge. So it goes on and on and on. But now we can at least, if nothing else, but we still got stupid Negroes that will still talk law and order. It ain't about law and order. It's about power and corruption. But I digress. I don't even care. America's always been a criminal enterprise founded by criminals and run by criminals since day one. And y'all want to integrate into this, into a burning house. But I got so much more. Today is the anniversary, speaking about American corruption, of the invasion of Grenada by Ronnie Reagan in 1983. The United States committed a genocidal act, an act of war. Every single
public official in the White House should have been locked up and marched off. All of the generals of the Pentagon and the congressional leaders should have all been arrested and taken off to the World Court, off to The Hague, off to Geneva, Switzerland to face international war crimes. But that don't happen because this is not a law of such. This is the world we live in is a world of high-tech barbarism. It's high-tech barbarism. So while they got locking up our grandmothers for flipping food stamps to feed their damn grandbabies because the system then murdered her son and locked up their mother for non-violent drug offenses, so grandmas are trying to do what hustles they can, get their child into a decent school district that hasn't been redlined to oblivion, trying to get make them food stamps stretch a little further. They locking up grandmas for flipping food stamps and forging paperwork to get children into better schools, while the elite white corporations and elite white government officials are committing genocidal war crimes and ecocidal crimes all over the planet. Man, listen. Don't tell me nothing about their laws. No respect for their laws. That's what Ice-T said. No respect for their laws or the city's health. No respect for their laws. We got to respect their guns. But respect does not mean to be in awe of. Respect is not a term of affection. Respect is simply a profound, in-depth understanding of. You can respect your enemy. And there are some people where they say, oh, I really respect. You can respect your enemy because respect is not a term of affection. That's where we get confused. Respect is a profound understanding in that context. But I continue to digress. I want to talk about, I didn't want to do a part 3, but I need to say something. I talked about occult anti-blackness. Occult anti-blackness exists in all of us. The anti-black, anti-African propaganda and indoctrination that African people have been subjected to generation after generation, and the daily bombardment of anti-African propaganda that all of us have been injected to since before we exited our mother's womb. The vibrations and the sounds and the stress hormones that African mothers are subjected to affect the development, the cognitive development of the fetus, and even on a micro, macro, DNA, epigenetics level. And understanding that black people have to make deliberate, aggressive, conscious efforts to be in favor of black people, to love ourselves as black people, to embrace things that are black, independently of anything white. But even though the most pro-black, most Afrocentric, most scholarly, and most passports full of stamps in all over Africa, there's still what is called occult anti-blackness, where you suppress, devalue, dismiss things from Africa or from African people in favor of things that are anti or non-African. It's unseen, it's subtle, it's subconscious. So we're very good now in 2019 at advying what I call overt or just standard anti-blackness, self-hate. But we don't see this occult. We celebrate a lot of Negroes that hate us because they come to do something good for us. So I talked about that on Monday. It's up in the archives. And then Tuesday I talked about pygmies and how fundamentally when you boil it all down and you get down to the core of the application and the thought process is that black men are not worthy, pursuit, affection, and all of that. And I even talked about all the things they claim pygmies are. But then you got the formal definition versus the practical application. And the same thing for simps. Now, I've been called a simp more times than I could really remember. Real talk. I be getting called a simp. It ain't something I ever set out to do or be, but what if I do? What if I do? So anyway, let's look at a simp. And I say that simp is another manifestation of anti-blackness. But unlike pick me, there's less occurrences of occult anti-blackness in symptom. But it's there. The standard definition of a simp is a man who foolishly, and that's the kicker, who foolishly overvalues a woman and puts her on a pedestal. So it's about standard, just like pick me. Black women are not worthy of your valuation, of your elevation, of sacrifice. And it's the same thing. If a black man says, I want to open a business and be an entrepreneur, and he goes on social media and says, I went without food, I went without proper clothing, I slept on couches from couch to couch, like Mark Cuban said when he was building his billion-dollar business, he was sleeping couch to couch, using the same bath towel for 3 years. It's a lie, but y'all love that rags to riches story. So, and most billionaires are psychopaths, so he's willing to tell that story, but whatever. Black folks, when Jay-Z talk about how he struggled and hustled and made so much money from selling drugs, he's still spending money from 1988. He ain't even started spending his rap money yet because he still got drug money to burn through. But if a black man says, I'm struggling to make big, get this business, get this paper, secure the bag, we say, right on, brother, keep on. And we give him all these words of encouragement, because to get the white man's fiat money, to get the Yankee dollar, it's worth literally sacrificing your life. We got the old Bubba Lips, Steve Harvey telling you, you ain't worthy of even sleep. A biological process, you will die without sleep. He said, you don't sleep. If you sleep, you deserve to be homeless, impoverished, and unloved. If a brother says, I'm going to school, and I'm trying to get this degree, yo, go for it. And I'm going to sacrifice everything. I'm going to cut off family members. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this degree so I can get this job and secure this bag or open this business. And we celebrate. But if a black man comes online or goes to his people and says, listen, there's this sister. She's been through some things. She's struggling. She's a single mother on welfare, recovering from drug addictions with a police record. But I see something of value. I see a spark in her. And I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to make sacrifices. I'm going to struggle with her. I'm going to cry with her. I'm going to work through her recovery. I'm going to help her. Oh, you a simp. You a sucker. You a chump, because the white man's paper money is more valuable than the African flesh and bone. And that's all it is. Nothing else, nothing more. Because no matter what, if you're an African in this society, struggle and sacrifice is at the core of your being. We had to bleed and die to drink out a damn water fountain. We had to lose our lives and get beaten up by racist cops and thrown in dank, musty jail cells just so we could sit at a soup counter or a sandwich counter and eat a damn sandwich. We have sacrificed and struggled for every damn thing in this country. And we celebrate that sacrifice and struggle. We celebrate Dr. King because he let a white man spit on him and throw bricks at his wife and didn't fight back. We celebrate Dr. King. We celebrate Fred Hampton because these men gave their life for our. We celebrate sacrifice, but the only thing we don't celebrate is when black people, person to person, intimately, to struggle and sacrifice with and for one another. You a simp, you a pick me, you a sucker, you a chump, because ain't no nigga worth none of that. And then when you call black folks out on this, they want to take it to the extreme. Well, what if he's an abuser? Like when I brought up this, I'm like, well, it seems like as I see y'all with your pick me memes and your pick me accusations, it seems like a pick me is any woman that deems a black man worthy of pursuit and affection. Any black woman that makes any steps to make herself more attractive to a man, which is what, hell, even peacocks and red robins, all animals, just most, not all maybe, but most animals that I know of that that do sexual reproduction, try to make themselves, whether they got a breast of feathers, they do stuff to make themselves more attractive to a potential mate. But when a black person tries to make themselves or pursues another black person, when they should be trying to get the job, when they should be trying to get school, when they should be trying to level up and get the white man's paper, we get degraded for that. And they're like, no, a pick-me is a woman who sets other women up to be raped by men. I'm like, that's it? Well, that's a very, very extremely minute minority of women. So I don't think that's happening as often as y'all would imagine. And even though a lot of times you find in this thing, but and then at the same time they turn around and talk about the G code and all black folks. And let me say this, I'm going way off the rails. And get mad at me. Tekashi 6ix9ine is doing the Lord's work. Middle finger to all this gangsterism and gangster nonsense and all this studio gangsters. I'm glad Tekashi 6ix9ine is exposing all this crap for what it is, to be empty crap. But I can't get back to that. Folks get mad at me because a lot of black men like to play gangster. So they want to pretend, but I digress. So a black man who foolishly overvalues, you know who's a pick me? Making sacrifice, putting her own life instead of putting her own interest up. Harriet Tubman. Going back down south, she had gotten her freedom. And them other niggas too lazy to get up and get on their own. You don't go down there and put yourself at risk. But anyway, that just came to mind. But, so a black man, if you, according to some arbitrary stranger, overvalue black women, I don't even know how it's possible to overvalue a black woman. I don't care if it's your mama, your auntie, your cousin, or your significant other, your spouse, or just a regular sister who live in your neighborhood. How do you overvalue a black woman? You tell me. Because even if a black woman is out here on drugs, struggling in any other kind of way, you know damn well what we done been through. You know what we going through. So they even have value. How the hell do you overvalue a black woman? And what the hell, where else you gonna put a black woman besides this pedestal? But I'm a simp. You a simp. And I'm saying, well, what do you value? Do you value yourself? You're a narcissist. Do you value the system and the rewards and the trinkets that are given to you and the titles and opportunities and pleasures given to you by your oppressor? So you're a narcissist, or in the latter example, you're a submissive coon slave. Because you got to value something. And what is that value based on? What it can give to you? So if you are historically oriented, if you are conscious, I don't know how it works. And we got a lot of warped ideas, like we don't understand how the world works. You know, I watch these videos of these black men who aren't simp, who put a woman in her place. And they talk about, you know, like I was watching this one video where this dude was talking about, he was having trouble with his baby mama. And the woman was mad. And he's like, she has no right to be mad at me because things didn't work out between us. Like, yeah, you know, I got my kid, I'm gonna take care of my kid. She just mad because stuff didn't work out between us. So that brought me into this world of all these videos of men taping angry black women whom they've impregnated. Some of them have 2 or 3 children with this particular woman, and the woman is pissed off. The woman is expressing anger for whatever reason. You ain't doing what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to pick the kids up. You're supposed to drop the kids off. There's this wide array of complaints. And these black men are saying, these black women ain't got no right, ain't got nothing to be mad about. Y'all just mad because we didn't stay together. And I'm thinking, as a man, if somebody impregnated me and things didn't work out, that alone is enough of reason to be mad as hell. Do you know what pregnancy is? Do you know what pregnancy does to a woman's body? Do you know that black women in the United States have the highest infant and maternal mortality rates in the world? Excluding some of the third world countries in the developed world? A black woman is 5 times more likely to die giving birth than so a black woman that allows you to ejaculate her and impregnate, she's literally risking her life for you. Literally putting her life on the line for you. And so if you don't fulfill whatever obligation, whether written down, unspoken, or spoken, whatever obligation that comes as a byproduct of fatherhood, and you think you can father a child without partnering with the woman, Where they do that at? So yeah. And so is it a dehumanization to think that, hey, I can impregnate this woman and fail to meet whatever standards and obligations she holds for me, and she ain't got no right to be mad because that's just how it turned out. That is anti-black. That is self-hate. That is coonery. That's what that is. Because literally, a black woman risked her life to reproduce for you, and you ain't got no appreciation for that. I don't trust dudes like that. Literally. You can't kick it with bro Diallo if you don't have constructive relationships with the women who have borne your children. Because if you can sell out, dude, all I do is maybe buy you a beer, hang out with you, crack jokes with you. I ain't done a fraction of the things for you. I couldn't, if I gave everything to you, couldn't give you as much as your baby mama gave you, and you ain't got no loyalty to her. I don't deal with dudes that don't have utmost respect and reverence for their baby mamas. And I don't know, maybe y'all had that sanitized birth. I don't know, with scrubs on and the mask. I had 2 home births. My wife and I had 2 home births. And when I saw what she went through, growing that baby in her womb, birthing that baby from her womb, and breastfeeding that child for 2 years, I'm like, dang, wow, I'm sorry I put you through all that. My reproductive process took 15, maybe 20 minutes on a good night. I'm done. And there used to be the understanding. When you look at the old African rituals and the old African folklores and the old African strolls, African men were in awe of black women as life givers. We didn't have this male god. Every male god in African theology and the African pantheon, every male god had a female component. And if you didn't have a female, we had hermaphroditic gods. Obatala is man and woman. Obatala is literally a hermaphrodite. So the divinity was always female. And when it wasn't just female, it was male and female. There was never this man God, man savior, son of God, and male Holy Ghost. And we've lost that. And we even got Afrocentrics walking around like puritanical cave dwellers. So, but let's get back to that. Oh, she mad because things didn't work out. And I see dudes, if you sign a contract to buy a car, you sign a mortgage to buy a house, or you just make a bet on the dice game, and a dude don't fulfill his obligation to you in a dice game on a mortgage to sell you a car. If I sold you a car and you drove it and it's like, oh, this is a nice car, and 2 days later the car completely broke down, you'd be ready to kill me. So obviously these same black men understand the notion of obligation and indebtedness. They understand the written and unwritten contracts, the social contract. Because when the white man doesn't fulfill his obligation to give you a job, to give you a fair chance in society, to let you in school, when the white man, we find out banks discriminating against black men, schools discriminating, the work, the military, when the police are acting discriminatory towards black men, we get mad as hell because we think we're a member of society. We deserve you. We are members of the societies. We are citizens of the United States, and as a byproduct of being citizens of the United States, there are certain social contracts and obligations that are made to us that should be fulfilled. But you don't have that same obligation to black women. It don't make no damn sense. So I will say again. And another thing, and what you always know, when they come down and they teach black men, it don't matter how the system treats you. You got to carry yourself with dignity. You got to stand up, boy. How they told us. Even when somebody ain't doing right, that don't excuse you from doing wrong. And y'all watch Dr. King get spat upon. And even Malcolm X said, I know things are bad for us. But Malcolm X put on that skinny tie and that sharp, skinny man suit, and he polished his glasses, and he stepped out upright, standing upright, erect, and with all the dignity in the world. So even if that woman ain't no good, that don't excuse you to stoop to no goodery. For lack of a better term, I have to come up with a whole new vocabulary because sometimes I be wanting to cuss, and I can't cuss on the air. So pick me, simp, is infused with anti-blackness, with the devaluation of black men, of black women, and black women of black men, and vice versa, flipsy, floppy. And so when you see these dialogues talking about simp or pick me, as a conscious person in the black community, whether it's on the basketball court or the barbershop or the beauty salon or on the worldwide internet, conscious African people do not allow African people to devalue other African people without being called on it. We are worth struggling. We struggle together. We are worth sacrificing for. Anything you will put into yourself, you should be willing to put into other people, because if not, we will remain atomized and oppressed. Allow me to move on from that, because I don't have much time, and I do really want to play this audio documentary of the Grenadan Revolution on the anniversary of the U.S. illegal genocidal invasion. I might have to talk. I want to talk about the new non-alignment movement, but that might have to wait. Today's show is called The Emptiness of Forgiveness. And everybody is up in arms because of a Botham Jean trial, when the judge cried and gave her a Bible and hugged this murderous, racist white woman. And then the brother of the slain man hugged and cried and this murderous, racist white woman. And when some random Mammy Coon, buck dancing Uncle Tom, black woman came and gently stroking the hair of this murderous, racist white woman, and black folks were all upset about forgiveness. And what I always say is, like, I don't know why we like insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. And the first thing I thought to myself, even about the Negroes who forgave, that was understandable. What I didn't understand was all you black folks who were outraged about forgiveness. Because y'all don't remember? Think back. You got to be historical. If you're not historical, you suffer from menticide. Y'all remember Walter Scott? 2015? The cop shot him. He was running away from that cop. The cop shot him in the back. The cop didn't know he was being recorded, because this is before our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ forced the white man to wear body cams. That ain't meaning nothing. Ain't been no increase in police conviction. There's been no decrease in police brutality, and body cams are everywhere. Body cams have flipped on us. They are now used as a tool of additional surveillance as opposed as a means of protecting our people. But I digress. Walter Scott, somebody was taping in the distance, and he's interacting with the cop. He turns and runs away, and this brother was middle-aged and out of shape. And he was in this slow shot. The cop shot him in the back and then went and dropped a gun on him. And then the cop was like, oh, they picked up the gun and said, you were on tape. He was like, well, the guy, he reached for my gun. Oh, he had a walkie-talkie. They came up with it anyway. But anyway, the cop was convicted of cold-hearted, willful murder. But Walter Scott's mother said she gonna pray for, and she forgave the murderer of her son. Remember Jordan Davis? The black kid that was playing his radio too loud? It wasn't even that kid. The kid, Jordan Davis, was in the back seat. And these black kids, a car full of black children, pull up at the gas station with the radio up, playing blasting rap music. And this crackers comes up and was like, you need to turn that music down. So they said, go to hell, mind your business. And then as the young people are getting in the car driving away, this white man and his girlfriend, the white man pulls and starts shooting at a car with 5 black youth in it. And the car goes on down the road. Then the white man hops in his car, goes back to the hotel to eat pizza. Him and his girlfriend lay up in the bed. The girlfriend didn't call the cops. The girlfriend didn't get away from him. I'm sure they had the best sex of their life. And the boys had to drive to a hospital because it hit Jordan Davis. Y'all know these stories. And the man who murdered Jordan, his own son, the son of the man who murdered him, said, my father was always an asshole. My father was a scumbag, and I knew this would eventually happen because my father is a hateful, heartless scumbag. That's what the son of the white man that killed Jordan Davis said. But what did Jordan Davis' mother say? I have forgiven him. She ran for Congress or something. And remember the mothers of the movement? The mothers of Avon, the mothers of Jordan Davis and Trayvon Martin and Amadou Diallo were running around stumping for Hillary Clinton, who called black men super predators. But let's go on. There's more stories of forgiveness here. She forgave. the man who murdered her son, when the man who murdered her own son didn't forgive her. Amadou Diallo's mother. They went and interviewed her, and she says, I'm at peace with my son being slaughtered and the cops walking away. Now again, I don't cry myself to sleep anymore. And she has forgiven. Not only has she forgiven the cops that murdered her son, this woman said, I forgive all of New York. And I'm like, all of New York didn't do nothing to your son. What are you talking about? I was in New York when Amadou got gunned down. I had nothing to do. I don't need your forgiveness. But Amadou Diallo's mother forgave. Akbar Louima, remember him? Who had a plunger stuck up his anus, and it's so far that it ripped his colon. He almost died of sepsis. And then they said, they mocked him. And then they said, oh, he's a homosexual, and he got his colon ripped. He's got his small intestine, his large intestines ripped a hole in because he was having anal sex because he's a gay man. And the cops are laughing and snickering and mocking him. He got his settlement, moved to Florida, and then when people came and said, listen, we're trying to fight police brutality. The people marched in the street for you, Akbar Louima. People are fighting so that this doesn't happen to anybody else. We need you to come tell your story. He slammed the door in their faces like, I got mine. It's all over and done. I got my money. All is forgiven. So sometimes the victim lives and forgives. Dr. King forgave white people for blowing up his house, for spitting on his wife. And I'm sure if he survived, he'd probably forgive the cracker for shooting him in his neck. So I don't know where all this new outrage for forgiveness come from. Since when y'all mad at forgiveness? I mean, I got more examples, but I'm running out of time. The vast majority of the atrocities. But it don't mean nothing. Because number one, forgiveness only matters when the person forgiving you has power to harm you. So if I go out and do something and a guy's got a gun in my head and said, I'll blow your brains out because you did this wrong thing, but I'm not going to, I forgive you. That forgiveness matters. But Amber Geiger don't give a damn about Bantam Jean's mother or anybody else. She cares about the forgiveness of the laws. And they ain't our laws. Even when you put on that robe or you put on a badge and you got a gun or a gavel, you ain't enforcing black laws. You are an instrument of the state. So black people, if you want to be forgiving, before your forgiveness carries any weight, you need the power to convict. You need the power to condemn. You need the power to sanction. You need the power to take somebody's life before you can decide whether or not to forgive. And Bobby E. Wright said, you forgive a white man for kill you, but your sister wear your dress without permission, you will never speak to her again. That's more occult, latent, anti-blackness. So black forgiveness don't mean nothing. It's an empty gesture coming from black folks. And black folks, if you want your forgiveness, I ain't even saying give up your forgiving nature. But it only matters if you're in a position to harm or sanction, convict, incarcerate, or do some real damage to somebody that has wronged you, and then you give forgiveness, then your forgiveness matters. But if you are just a spectator, even when you're the person wrong, black people, we're just spectators or instruments in this system. So who cares if the spectator forgives you? Who cares if the white man's going to send you to the electric chair, or white laws, or white judicial system, or white society is going to convict me, and a person who has no power and no status and no ability to impact that process forgives me? Who gives a damn? But then y'all got another thing that y'all say, well, forgiveness ain't about the person that did the crime. Forgiveness is about your own heart and releasing your own heart. I call Bishop. That's bull. That's not how it goes. That's not how we do. You know why? Because there's a woman, a scientist by the name of Barbara Ehrenreich. And Barbara Ehrenreich developed, I think it was stage 3 breast cancer. And she had a really bad prognosis. And she said her whole time while she was dealing with cancer, she was pissed off that she had cancer. She was angry that she had cancer the whole time. And she said everyone she saw, you got to be positive. You got to stay positive. You can't hold on to anger. You can't hold on to resentment. Let go of those negative emotions. And that'll help you recover from cancer. But if you hold on to negative emotions, it'll make your cancer worse. So being a neurological scientist, she wanted to see if her thoughts could really impact her healing or the progression of her disease. And so she did research, scientific research into the issue while she was dying of cancer. Fortunately, the cancer went into remission, and she published this book called Bright-Sided, where she talked about all that positive energy and positive thoughts. It's all pseudoscience. It's crap. So forgiving someone so that you don't carry the burden of anger or resentment or hatred does nothing for you. She calls it irrational optimism. And she said the general outcome of these empty acts of positivity, of forgiveness, of letting go, she said the most common outcome of that is feelings of self-blame. Because if the person who harmed you is not to blame, then you begin to blame yourself or blame their victim. But somebody carries the blame, because that's how the human mind has evolved to function. Cause and effect. So if you forgive the perpetrator, then you can't forgive the victim. You can't be on the side of the perpetrator and the victim. That's just not how our minds work. It's one or the other. Pick a team, pick a side, damn it. So she talked about this positivity, and it was really a whole industry. And so it's a myth that if you hold a grudge, it will harm you. It will kill you. It will make you unmotivated. How do we know? Look at white people. Took over the world holding hateful grudges. Have all the power and money in the world. And they are embodiment of hateful, vengeful grudges. Forgiveness does nothing for you. The forgiveness does nothing. It is an empty gesture. And if we want our forgiveness to matter, when we are liberated and we have centers of black power, when we have black people with the power to topple our enemies, to destroy our enemies, then we can turn to the white man once we get the power to say, listen, we forgive you for genocide, colonization, ecocide, ongoing crimes against humanity. We forgive you. Once we have the power to sanction you. Now, we could kill your ass. We could topple your economy. We could exile you. We could bind you. We could incarcerate. There's all these things we could do to you, but we decided to not exercise this power. But if somebody got a boot on your neck and you say, I forgive you, they don't give a damn. They not going to forgive you for spitting blood on their boots, while you forgiving them for crushing your throat with their boot. It doesn't matter. So black forgiveness is empty if it's coupled with black powerlessness. If a powerful person who's in a position to harm me forgives me, then that is a relief. That is something I can appreciate. But if a powerless person forgives me, then it means nothing. It means the exact same amount. Let me say this, the flip side of that. Black forgiveness means as much as black animus or black hostility or hatred. When you ain't got power, whatever your ideological position is, it doesn't freaking matter. So I could be over here hating Amber Geiger, and you can be over here forgiving and loving her, but neither one of us got power to act on our positions, so it doesn't matter. So we need power. We need organization. We need ultimately Pan-African unity to drive liberation. And then whatever our positions of affection or hostility, then it'll freaking matter. But remember, black people have been on this forgiveness train. But again, it is another thing of black anti-blackness and devaluation. Oh, and then let me tell you the ultimate forgivee. Remember Dylan Roof, who went in that church and shot our elders? Murdered our people? He was forgiven as well, you know. So I don't know why this. Maybe it's just the visuals. Maybe it's just we didn't see the visuals. But black folks been forgiving white aggressors since slavery, since colonization. So I'm more so than the forgiveness. It's just all black folks getting up in arms. And I know I'm late, but I'm going to play this documentary for the second half of the show. This is Bro Diallo Show, Q4 Radio, AM 1680. I really appreciate you tuning in. And if you appreciate the Bro Diallo Show, then please give a shout out to my Patreons, because I would not be here if they were not there. And like I also say, which I probably need to stop saying, if you don't like the show, then blame them. It ain't my fault, because I would just be screaming in by myself into an isolated, closed closet if not for my Patreons. They have created this and helped to sustain this platform, and I am forever indebted to you. Shout out to my Patreons. I can't say that enough. But also to the people that make the donation, PayPal on DialloKenyatta.com, Super Chat, everybody that's able to help me sustain the Bro Diallo show. Because I couldn't do it myself. Collectivism. This is socialism, true socialism at work. Progressive, anti-corporate, not even non-corporate, non-commercial, non-corporate, anti-commercial, anti-corporate, progressive media over here at Q4 Radio, aka Q4 Studios. Anyway, I want to share, because this is the invasion. I'm not even going to talk. We talk a lot about the destruction, the invasion of Grenada, but we really don't talk about the uprising and the Marxist-Leninist uprising that Maurice Bishop led to show. It was the second Haiti. Haiti 2.0 is in Grenada, and it was crushed by U.S. imperialism. And that's why you want me to cry over Russian interference in American elections? I don't give a damn about American sovereignty until America dissolves this empire and gives reparations to Africans, gives true reparations to the natives, and pays reparations to the Iraqis, pays reparations to the Palestinians, pays reparations. The United States owes reparations to everybody. And let me tell you something. If only black people in America just get reparations, that is not reparation. That's affirmative action. And if we got to keep talking about it, then we'll keep talking about it. But this is the Bro Diallo show. And I enough appreciate everyone, but I'm gonna cut this a little short because as I said, I really do want to share this documentary that I have queued up. So I'll be back Monday, but stay tuned. If you're watching on YouTube or Instagram live, you can go to q4.org, Q4 at the TuneIn app, iTunes Radio, so the show doesn't go dead when I go off the video thing. It's just, it's not dead. So you can stay tuned in that way. But you can also, because I only tape a segment of the show on the thing. So if you want the full show, you got to go to q4.org, iTunes apps, iTunes Radio, or if you're in the city of Chicago, you can listen on AM 1680. And there's something else I want to say, but I'll pick that up Monday. But I want to share this. This is a documentary that I was looking for forever, and I was so happy to find it. Just things are working out for old Bro Diallo, old struggle Diallo. It's called The Future Coming Towards Us. It's a really comprehensive documentary by, for, and of African people. The Caribbean Research Institute put out this documentary that was buried for many years, and it wasn't played in the United States. I don't think it's ever had an airing in the United States, but it came out just months before the U.S. invasion of Grenada. So we're going to share that after a brief musical interlude. We're going to check that out. So this, again, Q4 Radio, Bro Diallo Show, AM 1680. And this is a little snippet of the Frontliners album. Dope.